again in my life would I ever touch a Ouija board or the like. So this is my first semester in college, and I'm living at home. I've always had a slight interest in the paranormal, but never really experienced anything significant. One day I decided to catch up with one of my friends from high school, one of my girlfriends. We'll call her Kara. Kara and I recently had a mutual friend die. Now, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't mean to speak ill of his life, but he did die doing a really stupid thing. He and his friends decided to go get drunk, and then they car surfed on top of the car one night. Unsurprisingly, he fell off and was killed instantly when he hit the ground. We weren't exactly close with Travis, but we had known him for at least since elementary school. So we found it fitting to attend his funeral and cut out his obituary from the paper to keep. Well, one night we had a crazy idea to perform a seance and try to get in touch with this deceased Travis. We honestly thought nothing of it. We didn't think anything would really happen. We were alone at night in the office/media room of my parents' house when we decided to do this. We did a little bit of a generic Google research and began. We decided to start with an elder relative of mine that had recently passed as well. Her name was Ouija. I had an old quote of hers that she made herself, so we put it in the middle of a kind of altar with some white candles. We put a cup upside down in between us on a flat surface and placed our fingers lightly on the ridges. I mentioned simple things that I knew Ouija would honestly understand, and we occasionally felt the cup move in a circular pattern, but everything was very, very gentle. Once we ended our conversation with Ouija, we began to prepare for Travis's. We placed the obituary in the middle, as it was all that we had of his, placed our fingers on the cup, and began. Remember when I said Ouija's presence was very gentle? Yeah, well, not Travis's. We asked simple questions and gave instructions to Travis that moving the cup to the right meant yes, and to the left meant no. Are we the first to contact you? Yes. Do you remember us from school? Yes. Do you remember what you were doing when you died? No. We weren't entirely convinced until I decided to mention a name that I knew Kara did not know. The last name of the driver. Without warning Kara, I simply just said the name, Hollingsworth, and the cup moved in several circles to the right. Yes, 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 clearly. Whatever was speaking to us understood the significance of that name, because I knew for a fact Kara did not. Kara and I trust each other, and to this day firmly claim that neither one of us moved that cup ourselves. Something was moving that cup for sure. We were contacting something, somewhere, somehow. The cup wouldn't stop moving. Now, it wasn't wildly spinning throughout the room, like in a horror movie or anything, but it was definitely still moving, even lifting off of the ground as it circled from side to side. We ended our conversation right there and then, afraid that things are already going too far. We blew out the candles like Google told us to do, and put the obituary and quilt away. Everything seemed to calm down, and we still had the rest of the night to talk about it amongst ourselves, which we did. Somehow we fell asleep. The next morning was surreal, but normal, until we noticed that that cutout paper of his obituary was nowhere to be found. Fast forward to 4 years later. That room is fucked up. That office media room we performed that seance in has never been the same, and it is not my imagination. Kara and I gradually lost touch as friends, but stayed connected through social media. We don't talk about what happened, or about the missing obituary. Obviously, this whole thing didn't really have much of an effect on Kara, as it did me. You see, my parents still live at that house, and I still have to interact with whatever that thing is. While I still have been living here, one of my very devout Christian friends would swear that she saw something with evil red eyes inside the closet on more than one occasion. Why she wouldn't just immediately wake me up, I'll never know. But she claims that she has constant struggles with demons in her life, especially at night. I can't go into that room without more distinct feelings I've ever felt that I'm being watched. That room is where we keep the family computer, and I often found myself being forced to enter to print out homework and such. The whole feel of the room is just miserable and dark. Whenever I'm home alone, I swear that it ventures out into the rest of the house. I can feel it. Whether it's nighttime or daytime, I feel the need to acknowledge its presence, even saying hello and goodbye, because it just feels so awkward not to. I've seen more shadows than I can remember in that house, and they all seem to run back to that one room. My mom would always think that I was yelling for her when I hadn't said a single word. I didn't believe her until one night I distinctly heard my name being called out. There was no mistake in it. I thought it was my mom, so I went to see what's up, if she needed me to help her bring in the groceries or something. I was greeted with confusion as the entire house was quiet. I was home alone. I can't be alone there anymore. It's too spooky. I've never talked to my parents about it. I'm afraid to tell them because they are super Christians and would be so pissed that we even did a seance. Not to mention the fact that they would never believe me. So why am I the only one that notices this presence? I've since moved out, but my parents have never seemed to have any of the same problems I did. To be clear, I now know that we did not talk to Ouija or Travis. We only talked to something acting like them. It knew Ouija was a kind elderly lady, and it knew that Travis died while drunk driving. It had all the ingredients it needed to trick the fuck out of two girls that had never done anything like this before. Luckily, I've never felt that presence anywhere else except for that house, so I know nothing has followed me. But still, we brought something into this world that night, and it's still there. Maybe it's waiting, or maybe it's comfortable where it is. Who knows? I've never told anyone this story, but I wanted to get it off my chest somehow. While it may not seem particularly spooky to read, imagine living through every day alone. I was pretty scared, and I still have no idea what exactly we did. Back in high school, I had some friends who were Wiccan. They told me some stories about them using Ouija boards, and I was intrigued. So after a couple of times using it and being mildly entertained, a very interesting experience happened. Up to this point, the times I used to use it could be chalked up to an ideometer action. But this time, my Wiccan friends and I were in the back of our seats of another one of our friends' cars, with her in the driver's seat and another friend in the passenger while we played it in the back seat. She asked it the usual questions. Is there anyone there? What's your name? How are you speaking with us right now? But then I wanted to ask the question, so I asked, can you prove that you're real? The board responded with, how? I asked, can you manipulate something in the real world besides just this plankette? Then the board kept repeating itself, saying, "Bright side," over and over and over again. That's all it would say. Bright side, bright side, bright side. The girl and I were just very confused. I kept looking out of the car window, looking at different lights, looking to see if any of them were flickering or just acting odd. After about 20 minutes of the board repeating itself and us two looking around for whatever it was talking about, the girl in the driver's seat spoke up and said to look at their air freshener hanging from their rearview mirror. When I looked up at it, it was spinning very intensely, almost to the point it had no room to spin. Then it would go the other way, and again, it would be twisting itself, almost all the way before going back again. I had no idea how long it had been doing that, but it was interesting at the least. What made it even more interesting was that on the air freshener, it had the phrase, "Look on the bright side." After realizing what was going on, we quickly said goodbye, and we went our separate ways. I continued to play the game with her younger brother. Nothing that convincing ever happened again, and eventually every time him and I would play, after asking for their names, the board would always only respond with Zozo. And while it's interesting at first, because that was apparently the name of a demon associated with Ouija boards, it got pretty stale, and I stopped playing completely. Still, the bright side incident remains the only time I've ever actually been completely convinced that the board wasn't fake and something more supernatural had happened. Plus, I've had a couple of other experiences that have happened to me that I can't explain that made me want to completely stop associating myself with the boards because of how scary it had gotten, and they almost made me feel crazy when I would tell the others about them. If this gets some views, and you're interested in hearing some more, let me know. I only have 2 other experiences I can vividly remember at the moment. One time involving the most terrifying sound I've ever heard in my life, and another when I was laying in the bed watching YouTube. Let me know which one you guys would like to hear, and I might decide to share those other experiences with you too. But right now I need to go to bed. I have work in the morning, and just thought I'd go ahead and get this memory down before it vanishes in my mind forever. Thank you for reading. I saw someone else write a Ouija board story, and it reminded me of one of my own, and thought I would share it. When I was about 14, so 7 years ago, I went with some of my friends to one of their cabins during the summer break. One evening, one friend suggested that we played a board game, so we dug through the closet to find a good game, when we discovered a Ouija board. The friend whose cabin it was said they shouldn't play with it. It was her mom's, and she said that she had been warned to stay away from it, but we decided to anyway. She reluctantly showed us how to play it and how to set it up. She watched while the 4 of us played it, sat in a square, facing each other, knees touching, all that stuff. We started out asking silly questions, such as, will we find true love? What were the winning lottery numbers? Questions that little girls asked, basically. One friend decided these questions were boring and not daring enough, so she asked if anyone was out there who would possibly properly talk to us. The glass went to yes. She asked for its name, but the glass didn't move. She asked it if it would tell us its name. The glass went to no. She asked why not, and the glass didn't move. Then she asked if it was a spirit. No. Are you a demon? It very slowly moved to yes. Do you mean to harm us? No. Are you in hell? The glass didn't move. Is there a hell? The glass shot to yes, then flew off of the board. In a flash, the room became freezing cold, as if it was winter in Canada. We screamed and ran out of the room, but the next room was freezing cold too. We ran through the house to the outside. We had to go through the kitchen and the living room, and both of the rooms were freezing cold. Once we were outside, it was still as hot as it had been before we went inside. We were still freezing, but slowly warmed up. We just sat outside until the mom got back from visiting her friend. We tried to tell her what had happened, but she wouldn't listen and started into the house. She put one foot in the house, then screamed and came back outside yelling at us. "What did you do?" After we explained what happened to her, she told us that the glass shooting off of the board meant that the thing that we had been talking to had escaped. We had to go back inside. Our stuff was in there. So the mom went around and opened all of the windows she could from the outside and opened all of the doors. She ran inside quickly and opened the other windows, jacked up the heat, and grabbed the couple of fans that we had. We plugged in the fans and pointed them in the doors so that the heat would go inside of the house. We waited for a couple of hours, periodically checking. It was starting to get dark, so we checked again. It was still as cold as it was the first time. The heat and the opened windows and the doors hadn't made a difference. The mom decided we had to leave, and we ran in quickly, grabbed our bags, and ran out of there, and went back by a fire that we had made to warm up while her mother had locked the house. She left the windows open and the heat on, and she said that she'd come back in the morning, and we went to her friend's house. In the afternoon, we all went back to that house. It was still cold inside. We decided to go home a few days earlier than planned. My friend and her mom went back into that cabin before the end of the summer to close up the windows for winter and turned off the heat. It was still incredibly cold in that house. 2 straight months of incredibly hot weather and the heat on, and it was still as cold as ice in that house. They closed it up as quick as they could and never went back. It's still there. I've never been back. I wonder sometimes about it, if it's still cold inside. But I'm way too scared to go there to find out. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, I wanted to say thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you would like to see more Ouija board stories, make sure to let me know down in the comment section. Make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. We're doing nothing but growing. If you would also like to, check out the channel members, where I post bonus content, bloopers, stuff like that. Also, make sure to check out the links in the description, like my Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including my Gmail if you would like to submit a story. But other than that, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one. You probably shouldn't play with Ouija boards.